kind of confusing. But the way you read this is you pick one of these axes at a time. They're kind of confusing because the area can change based on how you order their axes. And surprisingly enough, Jeopardy seems to be the biggest area here. But each axis is some measure of these problems. And what are these problems? So Trek, TAC, and Jeopardy are question answering problems. And Trek and TAC were two question answering problems that had been, there were these challenges that came out every year, and a bunch of researchers would work on it. And the way it works is a bunch of researchers would get together come up with questions. Maybe they would mine them off the internet, but often they would make them up. Then they would find a corpus, which it was text documents that might have answers to those questions. And then they would agree on that. They would all go home to their universities. They'd work on a system to do that, come up with a system. They would evaluate it on a held-out set that they hadn't seen, and publish their results. LBR is learning by reading. I'm going to come back to that. Then there's Jeopardy. And then sustained investment was just, sustained investigation was just this notion of bringing a bunch of documents together so you can write a report for the intelligence or economic worlds is what they say. LBR is learning by reading. And so if you compare LBR to Jeopardy, Jeopardy is quiz show, short questions, you have very little time to answer it. LBR is you have a document, you have to read the document, and they're going to ask you reading comprehension questions, which are hard. You only get one document. Now, if you read this graph, so something like speed, Jeopardy over here is an 8, where LBR is a 4, maybe. So you have to be much faster in Jeopardy because there's a time constraint when you can buzz in. On the other hand, question difficulty with reading is 8. So this is saying that reading is much more difficult task than is answering a Jeopardy question. On the other hand, Jeopardy, you need to have very high accuracy, you need to have confidence, you need to know what you know and what you don't know so you know whether to buzz in, and you need to have a very broad domain. So then Jeopardy happened, and this is the team, this is our computer, and this is Ken Jennings. So here is
the power of one, the right fact deployed in exactly the right place. I never had a guidance counselor who thought this was a legitimate career path, that thought you could major in trivia or be a professional game show contestant. And so I sold out way too young. I didn't try to figure out what one does with that. I studied computers because I heard that was the thing, and I became a computer programmer. Not especially good one, not an especially happy one at the time when I was first on Jeopardy in 2004. But that's what I was doing. And I made it sort of doubly ironic, my computer background. A few years later, I think 2009 or so, when I got another phone call from Jeopardy saying, it's early days yet, but IBM tells us they want to build a supercomputer to beat you at Jeopardy. Are you up for this? This is the first